Jimmy hits it high and deep to center field. Get out of here, ball. Gone for Tommy.
On the first pitch, here's a high drive to center. This ball is carried. This ball is way back and gone.
Clemens has set a major league record for strikeouts in a game. 20.
What a shot by Vladimir Guerrero, his 30th home run of the year.
The 1-2 pitch. Outside corner, strike 3 called. 500 feet.
Edgar Martinez has hit his third Grand Slam home run this year.
Bonds with a drive. Looks like number 70 for Barry Bonds, and it is.
Bouncing ball toward the hole. Busquets stops it. Throws from the outfield grass. What a play!
Hey everyone, welcome to 1225 Live. My name is Alexa Datt. Yu Darvish's market is heating up. Joe Posnanski is joining us today on the show to tell us where he believes Yu Darvish will pitch in 2018. Plus, it's Hot Take Tuesday. Send us your best hot takes on the show, and Joe will grade them on a scale of unlikely to most likely. I've got a hot take. It might get me kicked off the show, Joe, but you're going to tell me how likely you believe it is. Plus, A-Rod has a new job to add to his already growing resume. Will that resume include eventually Hall of Famer? Joe will let us know as he answers his phone here in just a second.
It's ridiculous.
He's so popular, he can't even turn off his phone for 1 second here on the show. Joe, as we get started here, I know you've been talking a lot about Hall of Fame ballots, and you've been getting yelled at and screamed at, and are you a fan of people coming at you for all of your ballot selections, or would you rather just turn it in and wipe your hands clean?
No, I love it. I love people coming at me.
Yeah.
Because I thought way too much about this, so I get to fight back and all of that. Not crazy about like the sort of tone and tenor in general, but to me, I'm fair game. Come
Okay.
at me.
All right, good. So you're going to be fair game today on the show.
Absolutely.
If you have any arguments with his Hall of Fame ballot, send them in, and we will talk about it today on the show. We won't kill you too hard, though, Joe, I promise. All right, we're going to talk about MLB Pipeline, which is really interesting, these lists that they've been putting out of all of their top 10 prospects at each position. You can check that out, by the way, at MLBpipeline.com. We're going to play off that a little bit. We've been talking about the top player at each position going into 2018. Yesterday, we talked about the top righties in the game, and today we're breaking down the best southpaws. And to me, there really is only one southpaw that stands out above the rest, and that's Clayton Kershaw. He's not only the best lefty in the game, to me, he's the best pitcher when he's healthy, period. A 3-time Cy Young Award winner, 7-time All-Star. He's been a top 5 finisher in Cy Young voting each of the last 7 seasons, and has led the NL in ERA in 5 of the last 10 seasons. Unfortunately, obviously, he's got some back trouble that's caused him to miss some time over his career. That's something to watch closely this season, since he can opt out of his contract at the end of it and become a free agent. But nobody does it better than Kershaw, who won the MVP over Giancarlo Stanton back in 2014, let me remind you, also taking home the Cy Young. He's who any teammate wants to have on the mound, and any opposing pitcher absolutely does not want to face. Hands down, a first ballot Hall of Famer, I believe, Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, I came on the show on an easy day, right? Because there's nobody else. Look, there are other good lefties in the game. We could talk about Madison Bumgarner. You could talk about Chris Sale, but he's in a class all its own. I mean, there's a very good chance. Look, he has to stay healthy, and we have seen the back issues come up. Like to see him, get that postseason record a little bit, punchier. He had that nice Game 7, but it'd be nice to see him, have a, sort of a marquee performance in the World Series.
Right.
We could be seeing the best pitcher we've ever seen. I mean, that's how good he is. And I think you talk about the best left-handers in the game, certainly he's number one. But when you start talking about the greatest left-handers in baseball history, Randy Johnson and Sandy Koufax, I mean, he's in that class.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame that these injuries are holding him back from taking some of these awards, because you have these guys who are putting up innings totals that surpass Clayton Kershaw, like Max Scherzer, who are just as dominant, if not more dominant, because they are able to stay on the mound and stay healthy. So it is a shame that he's being held back because of this back injury, and we don't know how it's going to progress over his career. You wonder if that's going to be the one thing when you look back and say, man, he really could have been the best of all time except for that back.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, he would have won the Cy Young if he had had a full year this year, right? I mean, he had pretty close to Cy Young numbers, even with missing, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, however much he missed.
Yeah.
That's the only question. The only question for him is now he's getting up there into his late 20s, and it's a different time. He is going to have to take care of himself better. His stuff is going to start falling off a little bit. He's going to have to figure out how to respond to that. but he's such a smart pitcher, and I think the fun thing about him is he throws every pitch from the exact same point, right? And he's sort of invented the whole tunneling concept in some way. Every pitch comes out of his hand looking exactly the same. Hitters have no idea what's coming. And so, look, he is the best I've ever seen when it comes to doing that, it comes to dominating the game. But he has to stay healthy. It's a big question for him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Clayton Kershaw being the best southpaw in the game is not a hot take by any stretch of the imagination. But it is Hot Take Tuesday, so we are going to talk about hot takes today here on the show. If you have any hot takes, send them in and Joe will grade them. He's going to grade mine right now. And this might get me kicked off the show, but I'm going after somebody that you're a big fan of here with my hot take. So I'm going to see what you think about this, okay?
I'm ready.
Your 2018 NL MVP is going to be Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham, Joe, this is a guy who we watched all last season, and he absolutely dominated. 300, 400, 500 season last year. Only Stanton, Votto, and Arenado had a higher WAR than Tommy Pham, who accomplished this feat in just 128 games. 23 home runs, 25 stolen bases. He wrote down his goal to be the first Cardinals player to be a member of the 30-30 club. And he saw that when players write down their goals, they achieve it 30% more than if they don't write down their goals. He's going to achieve that goal this season, and he's going to do it with the help of Marcell Ozuna, who's going to help him in this batting order. On his way to earning MVP honors this season, I believe it's Tommy Pham.
I like it.
Okay.
But I'm a Tommy Pham fan. He was the Poscast Player of the Year, was Tommy Pham. Michael Schur and I chose him early and loved him all year. Look, what he did in 120 games last year put him in the MVP conversation last year. I mean, he wasn't quite up there with Stanton and Votto, but it put him in the conversation with 40 less games than those guys played. He's so smart. That's what's so interesting about him. He's so analytical about the way he challenges, attacks the game. I mean, you look and see what he's talking about, say on Twitter and social and interviews. He has a real sense of who he is and what he's about. I like it. Yeah. I like it. I'm going to say likely. I'm going to give you a likely on that.
I appreciate that because I think the last time I gave you a hot take, you shot it down so fast. And
it was a Christmas hot take, right? It was really, it didn't work. It didn't work at all.
All right, I'm glad you appreciate this hot take. Yeah, and I think he's coming into this season with a definitive role, which is really important to him. The last time he did that was in 2016, and he was hurt really early on in the year. So if he has a full, healthy season, he's definitely in contention.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so big. He'll start opening day. He's not only their starting, center fielder. He's a big, huge part of that team, right? They're building the team around him in some ways. They've gotten rid of a couple of guys who were younger players who they thought they were going to build the team around. It is now Tommy Pham's team. I think he embraces that. I think he has a big year.
Yeah, absolutely. And there have been a couple of amazing stories of him standing up in the clubhouse and just kind of, exclaiming, hey, you do this better, you do this better. And Adam's, everyone's looking at Adam Wainwright like, hey, are you going to put this kid in his place? And Adam Wainwright's like, no, I love this. Yeah. I love his spirit and his tenacity and his fire. We need more of this on this team.
I think he was made for this. I think he was made for this opportunity. So I'm with you. I'm totally with you on Tommy Pham.
Awesome. All right, so that's my hot take. You let us know what you think about our hot takes here on the show. So I'm going to turn it to you, Joe. Do you have a hot take you can share with us today?
You know what? I'm going to give you a hot take.
Okay.
I wasn't going to, but I think I'm going to give you a hot take. My hot take is A-Rod, who a couple of years ago was probably the most unpopular person in baseball. Probably number one on the list. Because of what he's doing as an announcer, everybody loves him. Because he's now going to be doing ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Because he is going out of his way to become the most beloved figure in the game. He's going to earn his way back on the Hall of Fame ballot. He's going to earn his way into the Hall of Fame. In 3 years, when he's on the ballot, he will be the most beloved figure in the game. And everybody's going to forget all that other stuff. They're going to look at his numbers. They're going to say he's changed. He's a better man. Everybody look at this A-Rod. He's so fun. He loves talking baseball. Everybody loves listening to him. He's so smart. A-Rod will finish the brainwashing over the next 3 years. And when his name comes up for the Hall of Fame, he's going to get in.
Joe, this is the hottest hot take I think that we've ever had here on the show, just because of A-Rod's reputation and obviously the steroids. But for me, it is just so important that we point out some of these guys who are currently on the ballot, who are getting tons of votes, who back in the day you would have said absolutely no. So I actually believe this hot take. I love this hot take. I'm 100% 100% in. I love watching A-Rod during his career, and he was fantastic. So I think it's also cool, too, because, you know, he's got this persona that people are starting to realize is a little bit more than what they had assumed he was originally. So when you get to know him, I mean, listen, if J-Lo likes him, then I guess I can like A-Rod, too.
Yeah, I look, he's doing what he wants to do, which is great. I mean, he's not one of these athletes who, okay, look, I finished playing. All I have really now is my baseball knowledge. I'm going to become an announcer. I don't love this, but I'm going to do it. He loves this. He seems to love this as much as he loved playing baseball, maybe more than he loved playing baseball at the end. I mean, he's a baseball nut. He thinks about it 24 hours a day. He loves talking about it. And I think people really have come to embrace him in a completely different way, in a way that's surprising, I think, even to them. We have 3 more years. That's a long time. I think A-Rod wins his way into America's heart.
I've talked to Kevin Burkhardt about A-Rod's preparation. He said, I've never met anyone who knows more about the game and preps harder for this job, which is, almost, you would never think that somebody who knows it all needs to prep, and the fact that he's willing to do the extra prep is pretty incredible.
It's amazing. I mean, you've worked with a lot of people, and, you work very hard preparing for this, and in order to do that, you have to love this. I mean, it's more than, okay, you want to do what you need to do to do your job right, but then there's that extra, and that extra comes from, I really enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
He has that. He really does. And I may be wrong, but I really think he does win his way back in.
All right, 2 likely hot takes today here on the show. Let us know what you think. Also, our question of the day has to do with Hall of Famers. So we want to ask you if you will make a case for who you believe which player in this class most deserves to be inducted. Let us know who you think. We're going to talk a little bit more Hall of Fame ballot right now with you, Paz. We're going to share your ballot here on the show. Is that okay?
Well, it's been shared everywhere. I'm just getting yelled at everywhere.
Today here on the show, in case you haven't seen it, here is Joe Posnanski's Hall of Fame ballot, and they are public if the writer so chooses to have it be made public.
Yes.
And you decided to have it be made public. Are you regretting that?
No, I always do. No,
Good.
I believe, look, I really joke about it, because people do give me a hard time. I want them to. I want people to, look, that's what's fun about the Hall of Fame, is that we can have big arguments about it, big disagreements about it. So I love that part of it.
All right, so you've got Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, both, as we saw there, on your ballot. A lot of people think that, neither of these guys belong in, or maybe one will get in this year. What do you believe?
Well, I don't think either's going to get in. Not this year, and maybe not ever. I don't know, how that's going to work out. But I vote for them because they're the 2 greatest players I've ever seen. I mean, so that's what it is. I don't appreciate what they did, what they had to do, what they allegedly did, and I don't think you can say anything more with Roger Clemens particularly. But look, that's the way the game was, and their greatness is so overpowering and overwhelming that it feels to me that you're diminishing the Hall of Fame in some ways by not having 2 of the greatest players in it. You don't have Pete Rose in it either. So, what is the Hall of Fame? I mean, it's sort of a pick and choose type of greatness. I don't think that's right. I think you don't have to like everybody. You don't have to agree with their tactics. You don't have to agree with it. If they were the greatest players, to me, they should be in the Hall of Fame, and those 2 guys should be in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called the Hall of Fame for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not the Hall of Fame, but, or the Hall of players who played really well and played by the rules, and and on and on and on.
Right.
It's the Hall of Fame. You want to see the most famous players and the players who performed the best at their job.
Well, and I think when you were watching them play, you knew they were Hall of Famers, right? I mean, the thing that's crazy about this is, so you don't put them in the Hall of Fame. Are people going to stop talking about them? No, they're talking about them more.
Right.
Because they're not in the Hall of Fame. So I think they belong in the Hall of Fame. I do fully understand, though, the people that say they don't deserve the honor. I get it. I totally get their opinion, and I don't try to talk them out of their opinion, but my opinion is they belong in.
All right, first ballot guys, Chipper Jones and Jim Thome both got 1 or 2 of your 10 votes.
Yes.
How close do you believe that they are going to come to that unanimous decision?
I think they'll both be pretty close. I think Chipper Jones will be very close. So I think he'll be right around that 98, 99%. Thome will probably be a little less, maybe 95, 96%, but still well above the 75% line. Both of them are locks for the Hall of Fame, and they both deserve it. Chipper Jones, incredible all-around player, did everything well. What an amazing hitter, both sides of the plate, just amazing. And then Thome with the power and the walks. I mean, he was the guy you did not want to face in the 9th inning because he was going to beat you. He was going to find a way to beat you, and both amazing players.
We've seen some ballots come out already without these players on them. What do you say to writers who decided to leave them off?
Well, it depends. I mean, look, first of all, everybody has the right to their own opinion. I mean, I can tell them I think they're wrong, but I don't, that's their opinion. There are people who left them off or will leave them off maybe because they want to give somebody else the vote. They're like, those guys are in. They don't need my vote. They're not going to get in unanimously anyway. So I'd rather give that vote to Johan Santana or Andrew Jones or somebody like that. I get that. That's strategic voting. I understand that. There are others who don't vote for first ballot guys ever, or they say they don't. I don't like that at all. I think that's ridiculous. Look, it doesn't have to be unanimous. The great thing is everybody who's in the Hall of Fame, whether they got 75.1% or 100, it's the same Hall of Fame, same plaque, same room, same everything. So sometimes I think we make too much out of that.
Sure, and it's fun to debate now, but once you're in the Hall of Fame, a lot of people forget the percent with which you were voted in.
Yeah, I mean, there were people who voted against Willie Mays. I mean, do I find that to be ridiculous? Of course I do. And
right.
They did not get the honor of voting for Willie Mays, and that's their deal.
Right.
But guess what? Willie Mays in the Hall of Fame, nobody cares.
Right. Right. Yeah, we remember the guys who were as close to unanimous or unanimous, in their voting, but or in being voted in. But other than that, it's just kind of
Yeah, I mean, it's trivia. It's trivia.
Yeah.
Will we ever get one? I mean, that's the real question. Will we ever get a unanimous one? I don't know. Maybe not. Derek Jeter's coming up.
That's pretty exciting.
Pretty exciting.
But if Ken Griffey Jr. wasn't unanimous.
Well, and honestly, I do think Ken Griffey Jr. was a greater player in some ways than Derek Jeter. I mean, they're both amazing players. Mariano Rivera's coming up. There'll be people that don't vote for him because of relief pitcher. But, if you're ever going to vote for a relief pitcher, I mean, I don't see how you can pass up on Mariano Rivera.
Let's bring the save back. That's what I'm saying on these Hall of Fame ballots. All right. You mentioned on Twitter that Curt Schilling belongs in the Hall of Fame. We know, obviously, his numbers say that he belongs there, but his character is a little bit in question, to say the least. Why do you feel like he belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Well, because I think it's what you did on the field. I mean, I really do. It's particularly like something like that. I mean, you can make the argument for the PED guys, well, what they did on the field was altered by what they did off the field. Okay. Whatever Curt Schilling says now, whatever he does now, has nothing to do with how great a player he was. Now, there was a time earlier this year where I was really kind of upset because I don't think it's right to hold back a vote from Curt Schilling just because you don't like what he said, even no matter how offensive what he said is, which I think a lot of the stuff he said is horrendously offensive. But still, he was a great baseball player, and you shouldn't allow that to affect you. And I thought, well, I'm going to make this guy my cause. I'm going to push hard because I believe in his baseball case that strongly. Since then, he's said enough stuff that I'm like, he's on his own. He can do whatever he wants. That's fine. I am going to always vote for him because I think he's worthy, both postseason and regular season. Absolute Hall of Famer in my mind. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if he shut up.
All right, a couple of names. Hey, I agree with you. A couple of names that caught our attention: Scott Rowland and Larry Walker. Why are they on your ballot?
Larry Walker is, to me, one of the great all-around players in baseball history. I did a little, what you call it, like a little spreadsheet type thing, where I put the 100 best players at hitting, fielding, and base running, based on how Baseball Reference does their WAR ranking.
Okay.
He was one of three guys that got into all three categories. Him, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds. So, we're talking about one of the great all-around players in baseball history. I'm really kind of shocked he hasn't gotten more support. Scott Rowland was I would call it my first strategic vote. I wanted to make sure that he stayed on the ballot. He was at the time close. I think it looks good now for him to stay on the ballot. One of the 10 best third basemen ever, great fielder, great hitter, got hurt a lot. That was sort of his big issue. But I think he certainly is Hall of Famer in my mind, but more importantly, I think he's somebody we should keep talking about, and so I'd like to see him stay on the ballot.
All right, sounds good. So if you have any comments or questions about Joe's ballot, make sure you send them in here today on the show, and we will answer those a little bit later. Let's talk about some current baseball news. Austin Jackson signs a 2-year deal with the Giants. How do you feel about this Giants outfield now?
It's weird. It's a weird outfield.
Really?
Well, I mean, look, you've got Andrew McCutchen, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And certainly it would have been really exciting 3 years ago, but I mean, still exciting. But he's in right field. We've never seen him in right field. We have no idea what kind of right fielder he's going to be. And so that's weird. Austin Jackson, I really thought they were going to go out and get Lorenzo Cain. I thought they were going to go out and get the best possible center fielder. Austin Jackson had a nice bounce back year last year. He's a good fielder. But, they want to platoon him out there, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work. I don't really like teams that put together like veteran, sort of weird veteran all-star teams from 4 years ago. Kind of that rarely works to me. And so you add Longoria, you add McCutchen, you add Austin Jackson, and all three of those guys might end up having great seasons and might still have a lot left in the tank, but we all know that their best was really 3-4 years ago, and so it's a touchy move for me.
So are you out on the Giants being contenders this season?
I'm out on them winning the division. I mean, I don't think they're anywhere close to the Dodgers. Are they good enough to beat out the Rockies and Diamondbacks? I mean, I think they'll be in the mix. I think they'll be in the mix. It wouldn't surprise me if they made the playoffs, but it wouldn't surprise me if it backfired too. If I had to be in or out, I'd be out.
Okay, we got some big name free agents, obviously, that we've been talking about all offseason. We are just waiting with bated breath for these guys to sign. I know. So JD Martinez, Jake Arrieta, and Yu Darvish. If you had to pick one, and you feel like they are going to find their landing spot first, who do you think it is?
Well, I think right now you would bet on Yu Darvish, just because he seems to be the most active guy in promoting his own case. I mean, he's breaking news on himself all the time, which is awesome. I think he's probably the most likely because it looks like he's fairly close, right? We've got Milwaukee in on him, the Cubs in on him. It seems like he's relatively close. The J.D. Martinez thing, I mean, he seems to be somewhat interested in the Red Sox. The Red Sox somewhat interested in him, but
I just don't think he wants to DH.
He doesn't want to DH, and I don't think the numbers are matching up to what he expects either.
Right.
So I don't know if that's ever going to work out. Yeah. And you have to ask a question from the Red Sox perspective. Everybody wants J.D. Martinez's bat. I mean, he's an amazing hitter. But how much better a team are you going to be if you have to trade one of those outfielders in order to get him on your team? You're going to gain a lot offensively. You're going to lose a lot defensively. So it's really questionable. And so, look, he should sign. He's a great hitter, and I'm shocked that more teams aren't in on him. But I don't know when it will happen.
Okay. All right. Any and all baseball questions you have for Joe, make sure you get them in. You can comment down here by the bottom of our Facebook page, and we will mention them a little bit later on in the show. But we continue the Yu Darvish conversation right now with our Brewers reporter, Adam McCalvey, who is joining us. Hey, Adam. So from the latest from that Yahoo Japan article, which we needed some help translating because we don't speak Japanese or read Japanese, the Brewers made Yu Darvish an offer. What's the likelihood that this actually happens?
Well, I still think it's unlikely that Yu Darvish, the best pitcher available on this market, huge international profile, ends up in little old Milwaukee. Sorry, I'm skeptical of that. But it's certainly a possibility in that he's the one who put it out there, as Joe said. I was joking with our friends Mike Farron and Jim Duquette yesterday that this was the first time I needed two translators. We needed the Japanese translator to understand the article that he linked to. Then I needed a millennial to tell me what the thinking emoji meant in terms of what Yu Darvish was trying to say. Was he trying to say, hey, this is, I'm skeptical of this? Or was he saying this is really something to think about? So I guess it's really something to think about since our other friend Ken Rosenthal subsequently confirmed that, yeah, the Brewers did make an offer. We don't know much about that offer. I'm guessing teams like the Brewers getting in late on some of these big free agents, they would try to go the short-term, high average annual value route. I don't know what Yu Darvish exactly is thinking at this point and whether something like that would entice him, but it shows you that David Stearns, the Brewers GM, is really thinking outside of the box in how to add starting pitching.
Does this team have any concerns about signing Yu Darvish after those two rough outings in the World Series?
Well, honestly, we don't know because David Stearns has this policy of not talking about free agents, and he hasn't talked about Yu Darvish at all. We don't know what the Brewers' internal analytics think about Yu Darvish. All we know is, when he's been healthy, he's been a really good pitcher. He had those two rough starts in the World Series, and look, was he tipping? I know there's been theories sort of thrown about, but if you look at his his regular season results over his career when he's been healthy. That's a pretty good pitcher, and that's a guy who could help the Brewers. They've added Jhoulys Chacin this winter, sort of an under-the-radar pickup, and again, the analytics really like what Chacin did last year in San Diego. And then they have Chase Anderson and Zach Davies coming back after, for them, kind of breakthrough step-forward seasons. They will get Jimmy Nelson back, who took a big step to be really a number one type pitcher in the major leagues before he got hurt late. He's resumed a throwing program, and he told me last week he's ahead of schedule from where he wanted to be at this point, already throwing. So he will be back at some point in the season. We don't know whether that's May, June, something like that. those are some good pieces there. If those are three, if you look at Davies, Anderson, Chacin, and then when they get Nelson, that really leaves one opening, and it does give David Stearns some room to add one more established pitcher. Obviously, Yu Darvish would be that guy. But look, the Brewers have also been linked to Arrieta from the beginning of this offseason. A little skeptical there, too. And then the next tier, the Lance Lynn, Alex Cobb tier, I think that could be an area where Milwaukee jumps in.
Let's assume that they do complete the signing and they add Yu Darvish and then they get Jimmy Nelson back. You mentioned that he was ahead of schedule. You wrote an article recently for MLB.com. They jumped 13 wins from 2016 to 2017 and nearly made the playoffs. What would that mean for their playoff aspirations for this season, Adam?
Well, it would certainly help. This was a team that when they were good in the 08 to 2011 area, it was Prince Fielder, Ryan Braun. It was hitters that really brought Milwaukee up to prominence. Last year, this was a pitching team. They were a good and average offensive team, and adding some lefty bats and Travis Shaw and Eric Thames really helped. Both guys hit 31 homers. But it was a team that was top 10 in ERA in the National League, led by Jimmy Nelson, and adding to another established starter to that mix and bringing those guys back and expecting hopefully more development from the Chase Anderson, Zach Davies types. I think you could see them maybe not challenging the Cubs for the division title, but being a wild card contender. And you get in with a pitching staff like that, and you can win. You can go pretty far in the postseason. So it's they're in a really interesting spot, and they have been all winter. I think back to the very beginning, our first sort of post-mortem press conference, the 2 days after the season ended. David Stearns said, "I like this team." And he had just watched them take this big step, 86 wins, get to within a game of the wild card. He added some starting pitching. I think he still likes his team, but now he's in a place where he can be a little opportunistic because of this weird free agent market, all these guys hanging on late. Maybe the Brewers can jump in, get a guy for what they feel is value. If they do something, Yu Darvish we've been talking about. Let's say they do sign a Yu Darvish. I think that would inform some other moves. Maybe then they spend a little bit more and bring back Neil Walker to really shore up second base. Maybe they look at Jonathan Lucroy is still out there. I haven't heard his name linked to the Brewers, but if they really want to go all in after signing one big guy, they would have some financial wherewithal to add a couple more pieces after that. So they are still in this kind of middle ground here where they like their club, they have room to add, they have money. If they can get a bargain on one top guy in this remaining month or so that we have left in this offseason, I think maybe it could be a domino to some other moves. If they don't get that one guy, maybe they roll with what they've got and give the players that took that step forward last year one more year to develop, and then count the Brewers as players in next year's free agent mega market that everybody's waiting for.
Well, the Brewers have also been linked to Mike Moustakas with the thoughts that if they bring in Moustakas, they would trade Travis Shaw. How glaring of a need is this for this team?
It's not at all, which is really interesting. And it shows you, I think David Stearns, again, this outside of the box thinking. And a lot of these new GMs, to me, think about moves a little differently than we've always thought about them before. Before, you go into an offseason and you think Brewers have a need. They had a need for starting pitching. They have a bullpen need. Every team does. So those would be their needs. Maybe another club has a need at third base and center field. Those would be the players they target. I think GMs now, because they have all of these resources, they have data to go on. They all have their own algorithms to figure out, to predict what players will do. They can plug in all these different combinations of players. So let's use Moustakas as an example. You bring in Moustakas to play third base. That would almost certainly mean you trade Travis Shaw, hopefully for a starting pitcher. Are you better with Shaw in the pitching you've got now, or maybe signing a free agent pitcher, or with Moustakas and then the pitching you could get for a Travis Shaw? They've also been linked to Lorenzo Cain, and the Brewers are a team that are absolutely stocked with outfielders, major league ready, guys like Lewis Brinson who are just getting, top prospects just getting to the big leagues. It looks on paper, going into the offseason, you never say the Brewers would be in on Lorenzo Cain, but here we are. If they add Cain, maybe they traded Domingo Santana for a pitcher, and you can plug these names into your algorithm, get results out of what the computer thinks these players are going to do next year, and see, what makes your team best. Which combination of pieces are you best in the end? So I think it's leading to some really interesting rumors with the Brewers and guys that you never would have thought they would be linked to.
All right, sounds good. We have a couple of fan questions for you here, Adam. Mike wants to know what the Brewers are going to do with all of their outfielders this year.
Well, yeah, look, that's a question, and I think it's one that is going to go into spring training. Craig Counsell is this guy who he hates when we ask him questions about starters and bench guys. He has this idea of the position player group, and he has drilled that into our brains over the course of the last 2 seasons. So right now with the guys they have, I think it's a 5-man group. It's Ryan Braun primarily in left field. It's Domingo Santana primarily in right. Then you've got, I mentioned Brinson and Brett Phillips, 2 prospects who sort of got their feet wet last season. And then Keon Broxton, this great lightning rod player who is 2020, obviously pretty good. Also led the majors in strikeout rate, which is pretty bad, but room for development. So I think the way it looks to me right now, barring some kind of move, Craig Counsell is going to have to find at bats probably for all 5 guys. And with Ryan Braun questionable with injuries last year, for much of last year, he was limited to under 400 at bats. There is a possibility, it looks like there are going to be at bats to go around. It's going to be a juggling act though for Craig Counsell with 5 guys. It's much easier with 4, but I think it's going to be a group, and the Brewers are going to be a rough team for fantasy baseball players because I don't necessarily see them having 1, 2, 3 starters and 1 or 2 bench guys.
All right, one more fan question, Adam, before we let you go. Luke wants to know, and you addressed this a little bit, but he wants to know if you believe Lance Lynn or Alex Cobb will be a better fit than Yu Darvish in that rotation.
Well, financially, they would be an easier fit for the Brewers. The Brewers are at in the $50 million-ish range right now in terms of commitments financially. So they have room to add. They were one of the lowest payrolls in baseball last year. They've supported up to about $110 million, say in the 2011-12 area where they were a real contending type team. So that's as far as they've ever gone payroll-wise. It gets hard if you add a Darvish and he gets the dollars that we all thought he was going to get going into this winter. It gets tough to kind of add around him and build a sustainable competitive team, which is their goal here, especially with Ryan Braun's salary now way up there and the likelihood of him being traded less and less and less. So it's a matter of using those resources, sort of limited resources relative to teams like the Dodgers and the Red Sox who can just go to $200 million and beyond. Using those resources to build the best team you can. I think the second tier is more likely for Milwaukee. I don't mean any offense to Lance Lynn and Alex Cobb, who are good major league pitchers, but sort of that next group, you fit them in, maybe a shorter term deal. It gives you a little more time to develop some of the young pitchers that the Brewers are high on. And look, this has been the Brewers, the rip on the Brewers over the years has been very good at developing hitters, not very good at developing pitchers. And now they feel like they have some pitchers in the system. A guy, Brandon Woodruff, got a taste last year. Their minor league pitcher of the year is a player named Corbin Burns, who has really rocketed through the system, a 4th-round pick a couple of years ago. Josh Hader could end up back in the starting rotation, maybe not to start this year, but at some point. They've got some guys that they have either drafted themselves or traded for as prospects and developed that they're pretty high on. And maybe a shorter-term free agent then makes sense and give those guys a little bit of time to get to the big leagues. Then once you're really there, you're rolling with the guys you've developed yourselves.
All right. Great stuff, Adam. And by the way, I'm the millennial that you can contact if you need me to interpret any of those emojis. Yes. You just let me know, all right?
Yeah. Normally it's Danny, but I will. I'm sorry for forgetting you about this, but I will keep you guys in mind next time I need emoji translation. By the way, did you guys talk about Joe's tie?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Actually, we just had somebody comment on it.
Hang on.
Kay, yeah, it's like, Joe, great tie. She loves it.
I keep waiting for that. I am going to hang on and watch the rest of the show, and I can't wait to hear the story of this tie.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate all the info.
All right, see ya.
All right, yeah. I mean, Kay is screaming on Facebook over and over again. She's obsessed with your tie. Where'd you get this tie? This is awesome.
I got this tie, I think, at the Hall of Fame. So this was going to be my hot take. I'm only going to wear baseball ties from now on.
Ooh.
That's it, no matter what. Like funerals.
I was going to say,
it doesn't matter.
Can I bring that up or not?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Weddings, funerals, whatever, bar mitzvahs. I'm only going to wear baseball ties. So I've got a few. But
How many is a few?
maybe 8 or 9.
Okay, so we need to get you a
ties.
couple more.
Well, I need to get
That's a good amount, though. 8 or 9.
It's a fairly good amount.
Yeah.
I'm building the collection. So I want to get different ties. So I need like a black baseball, maybe with just like one little baseball on the bottom or something for sad occasions. But that's it. I'm only going to wear baseball ties from here on in.
I love it, and I'm really excited to see your collection. That's going to be pretty fun. Yeah, Kay's a big fan. Sam also asking where you believe Jake Arrieta is going to end up.
Wow. I mean, we've talked about this on the show several times.
Yeah.
I always think he's going to go back to the Cubs. I always believe that's the best place for him. It's the best fit. I don't know. I mean, now the Cubs are in on Darvish, so I mean that's weird. And I don't know. I really do wonder what's happening behind closed doors because seriously, we know about the big name free agents, and Arrieta would be one of those, but. There are 125, 130 players out there who have no idea where they're going to play. And you know, now is the time when families are like, where are we going to live this year? What's going to happen? What are we going to do with our kids? What are we doing? You know, the wives are getting panicked and you know, everybody's getting panicked. So you have to believe that this is going to start breaking at any point. And I think Arrieta's got to be one of the early breaks, you would think. But boy, it still hadn't happened.
To me, the most interesting part about it is you hear that a team in a division is interested in a player like the Brewers and Darvish, and then their competition in the division jumps right in, like the next day, right? So it's like, oh, but the Cubs are really interested too. And it's like this weird cat and mouse game that we're watching. So, I'm ready for it to break, but I'm kind of into, I gotta say, I'm kind of into the drama.
You like this. You like the
I'm into it because I know it's eventually going to end. It's not going to go on for years and years and years, right? This is going to kind of come to a conclusion.
It's like a Game of Thrones thing.
That's right.
You're ready. You don't need, you know they're all going to die, but you just don't know when.
Exactly.
All right.
Michael wants to know what you think the Red Sox are going to do if they don't get J.D. Martinez.
I don't think that there's a whole lot they're going to be able to do, really.
Right.
I mean, as far as, you know, look, he's the best bat out there. So they seem to be out on Hosmer. They brought Mitch Moreland back, so they seem to be out on him. They're kind of filled. I mean, even though they didn't hit any home runs last year, they're kind of filled. Is there anybody out there they could go out and bring in as a DH? I mean, that, you know, I mean, could they get in on Moustakas and figure out a way to make that work? I don't know. I mean, it seems to me like they should be all in on Martinez. Like he's the only guy that makes sense for them offensively. Now, I've actually been a little surprised they haven't gone in on any of the pitchers. I kind of thought they might try to dive in on Arrieta or somebody like that, but they seem to be okay with what they're coming back with. So they might not do anything.
Well, it's, you know, going into the last season, we thought that was going to be one of the most dominant rotations. David Price got hurt, so unfortunately it wasn't. So I think they're, you know, banking on these guys being healthy.
Well, that's right.
Going into this year, and so, you know, but yeah, there's always the possibility of injury. So why not shore up the rotation?
Well, especially when you've had injuries in the past.
Right,
I mean, look, David Price is a question mark coming into this year. They have to rely on him. They've kind of signed for another 5 years. But I mean, he is somewhat of a question mark. Sale is your lock, and then, you know, look, they've got tremendous young pitching as well. They've got a lot of young talent everywhere. So unless they're going to make a big bold move, which I think we've all been waiting for, they might go into the year with what they got.
Really interesting.
Crazy.
And might not be able to win the division with what they've got.
No, I don't think they can. I really don't.
Really surprising. All right, something else we saw come out this morning from our friend Mark Feinstein, who tweeted this out. A-Rod is going to replace Aaron Boone on ESPN's Sunday Night Baseball broadcast. Obviously, he's got a knack for replacing Boone, as we've seen. First as the third baseman and now as the analyst. So the question is he going to replace him as Yankee manager one day down the road?
Well, he's done wonders. He has reinvented the A-Rod brand. It is completely reinvented. So he could end up being the Yankee manager someday.
Are you imagining the press conference where it says Hall of Famer Alex Rodriguez next Yankees
next
manager?
Yankee manager. I like that. I like that. That's probably not going to happen now.
Unfortunately not. All right, we've been talking Hall of Fame all day on the show, and we wanted you to make a case for somebody on this ballot, and you did just that. Thank you so much for sending all of your comments in, and we also have a couple of hot takes for some people. So, Joe, I want to throw this at you and see what you think. James says the most deserving on that list is Edgar, because he should have been in years ago. The best player on that list, though, is Chipper, who should get in on this ballot.
Yeah, that's not a hot take, is it?
No. These are just some Hall of Fame comments that we got.
Yeah, and look, totally right about Edgar Martinez. Edgar Martinez is not in the Hall of Fame because he was a designated hitter, and I mean he's one of the all-time great hitters in baseball history. I mean, you can ask any pitcher of the 90s who the toughest hitter they faced. Every one of them will say A-Rod, just about. So yes, should have gone in a long time ago. It's really, really going to get close this year. Might even sneak in, but for sure going to get in next year.
All right, Bruce says Omar Vizquel was the best shortstop I saw on a daily basis. And Matthew says Bonds is going to get inducted before his time is up. Writers can't justify keeping the GOAT out. The guy was head and shoulders better than anyone in his entire era.
He's right. He's right. He was head and shoulders better than everybody in his entire era.
Yeah.
Whether or not the writers can will vote him in is a whole different question.
All right, so a couple of hot takes now. This is from Dennis. Ichiro Suzuki is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, super likely. Not hot take
Not
at all.
a hot take at all,
Not a hot
right?
take at all. Absolutely. Probably with 95% of the vote. No question.
Yeah, 3,000 plus hits. I mean,
3,000 hits, all-time great hitter, and you throw in the Japan stuff, which
right.
You're not supposed to consider, but you will.
But you do, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. He'll whatever year he comes out, because he hasn't retired yet, he'll be the highest vote getter on that ballot.
All right, this hot take might surprise you a little bit more. This is really hot. Jesus says, my hot take Tuesday is that the Angels end up in the postseason. That's not that hot of a hot take, but he has Shohei Ohtani winning Rookie of the Year and Cy Young.
Ooh, I like that hot take. I like it.
That's scorching hot. That might be hotter than A-Rod as a Hall of Famer.
That's hot. That is very hot take. I'm going to go less than likely on that one. Well, I mean, I think he is your favorite for Rookie of the Year right now. We'll see. I'm so excited to see him play. Remember when everybody was talking about the elbow thing, like the elbow injury? We haven't heard anything more about that.
Yeah.
Let's get him out there. He is one of those guys who this offseason, especially because nobody's signing, we have talked about him every day. None of us have seen him pitch.
No. We have no idea what we're talking about when we talk to him blue in the face.
Let's get him out there. I'm really excited to see him pitch that.
Yeah, hopefully he's healthy. He got that PCP injection, but we'll see how that translates this season. Joe, thank you so much for joining us with your awesome tie.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited to see you next time because you're going to be wearing another awesome tie.
Totally different tie. It'll be awesome.
Excellent. We'll have to add to that collection. We'll help you out.
We'll
get you a present here. Thank you so much for watching us here today on 1225 Live. We'll be back tomorrow with Scott Rogowski, one of the hosts of HQ Trivia, who's going to play a little trivia with us on the show. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alexa Datt here on MLB.com, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.